Welcome to the Now South Florida. I'm Alana Quillen. Water quality concerns continue to make headlines on the Treasure Coast, but some fishermen say there's a misconception that blue-green algae is basically everywhere. They wanted to take the Now's Alex Hagan out today because they say the water isn't all bad.
Well, Captain Glenn Cameron contacted me to take me out on the Indian River Lagoon and offshore to show me there are still places to fish. Cameron has been with Floridian Sport Fishing in Martin County for 30 years. He agrees there's a problem with the algae, but says that's happening more so closer to the St. Lucie Loch, not here along the lagoon and offshore. He says you can catch snook, tarpon, and snapper that typically stays offshore. He hopes people realize there are still places to fish despite the ongoing algae crisis.
We have a big problem with algae. I guess really what I want to show everybody is that the algae is not as widespread out here in the salt water as has been portrayed, but it's clean and it's safe and it's beautiful.
And I'll have much more on my trip with Glenn coming up all new at 5:30. Also, Martin County leaders' response to this story. In Martin County, I'm Alex Hagan for the Now South Florida.
All right, another scorcher out there. Temperatures today soaring into the mid and low 90s. There's a look at our High 5 camera, and you can see it's a pleasant day, but wow, the heat is unbelievable. And we have a line of showers and storms that are working in across the Treasure Coast. Of a line almost to Okeechobee now, all the way up in towards Sebastian. Here's a better look at it. A few lightning strikes, torrential downpours. All the way just to the west now by a couple of miles around Okeechobee. Temperatures high 80s to the mid 90s. And this one, a few rumbles of thunder. This will arrive into Okeechobee in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes and then slowly push toward the east. You can see that rainfall also right on the border of Sebastian now, eventually working in, well, it's right across the turnpike too. So that's a solid line of rain and a few thunderstorms embedded in that too. So keep an eye on that. Our temperatures are just incredible, mid 90s across most of the Treasure Coast, a little bit cooler in Palm Beach County. And look at the showers that are just starting to bubble up across 27 south of Belglade. So a little bit of a busy evening, and the computer models still want to bring in some rain through 6. There is 6 p.m. You can see Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast looking at a few showers, and everything clears out as we get into the mid-evening hours. We're going to talk more about the heat, humidity, and closer look at the weekend coming up.
We have a lot to catch you up on this afternoon here on The Now, and one city's making a pretty bold move. It's telling restaurants to remove sugary drinks from kids' menus. Now, other places, they've already done this, so we're going to tell you how customers are reacting. And this is certainly getting a lot of buzz today. The plan to train dogs to stop school shooters. Is it a good idea, or is this too dangerous for the dogs? Also, a college football coach stirring up some controversy, questioning if football-related injuries are actually connected to CTE. Yeah, that's the brain disease linked to memory loss, depression, even suicide. And here's a question for you. Does milk have to come from a cow? Yeah, it's kind of a silly question, but the government is actually debating that right now. It raises the question, what else would you call soy milk, almond milk? Well, we're going to be talking about that and much more this afternoon here on The Now.
A Jensen Beach masseuse is in custody after 2 women filed complaints saying he inappropriately touched them. Martin County Sheriff's deputies have arrested and charged Joseph Correa III with sexual battery. He works at the Pink Cottage Day Spa. Those complaints were filed in April and July. Investigators are asking anyone who might have had a similar experience with this man on your screen to please call the sheriff's office. Now, coming up at 5 o'clock, our Tori Dunnan will take you on an exclusive tour inside that spa and speaks with the owner about the arrest. Right now, Delray Beach police are investigating an overnight drive-by shooting that put a 10-year-old boy in the hospital. Police say the shooting happened around 10:30 last night on Northwest 1st Street. Witnesses say the shots came from a gold-colored Chevy Tahoe. Police say you could get up to a $3,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest. New information on a downtown Delray Beach car crash. A teenager riding in one of those vehicles is still in a coma. That crash happened Sunday night on Swinton Avenue. Police say 18-year-old Farrah Fox from Boca Raton was riding in a car with a man when their car was struck by another vehicle. That SUV was driven by an off-duty Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy identified as Michael Devanzo. Fox is still in critical condition, and so far no charges have been filed. Stocks took a small dip this afternoon after President Donald Trump criticized the Federal Reserve for raising interest rates. Here is what the president said to CNBC's Joe Kernan.
I'm not thrilled because, we go up, and every time you go up, they want to raise rates again. And I don't really, I am not happy about it. But at the same time, I'm letting them do what they feel is best.
The Federal Reserve is an independent body of the government. So far this year, interest rates have been raised on 2 occasions and could go up twice more before the end of the year. However, rates have remained historically low since the 2008 recession. An extension in Broward County. The judge overseeing the Stoneman Douglas school shooting case has given investigators more time to file their reports. On Monday, Judge Elizabeth Schurer gave investigators until Friday to turn in those documents. The Broward County Sheriff's Office asked for an extension and got one today. They now have until August 15th. That could push back a potential trial date. Judge Schurer had stated she hoped to have the trial start as soon as September of next year. An emergency rescue in alligator-infested waters in Brevard County. An airboat capsizing, sending 7 people overboard. One of those passengers said they waited on the hull of the boat until rescuers arrived. Thankfully, they were all brought safely to shore and no one was injured. It's uncertain, though, what caused that boat to overturn. Remembering a fallen officer by helping another in training. For the first time, Delray Beach Police handed out the Christine Braswell Memorial Scholarship to Community Service Officer Luis Bonet today. Braswell was killed in an auto accident in Key West last April. Right now, Bonet is in the police academy and expected to graduate in October.
The Federal Trade Commission is teaming up with agencies from every state to make sure charities that claim they're taking donations for veterans really are. Well, today they announced they filed suit against 2 businesses. The FTC saying Help the Vets collected more than $20 million, and it claimed that it would help veterans who were fighting cancer and with suicide prevention. In reality, 95% of that money went to paying the founder, fundraisers, and to expenses. Now, the second case is against Veterans of America. It made illegal robocalls asking for donations for cars, boats, real estate that was supposed to benefit veterans. Well, the owner allegedly used that money on himself and to pay for more robocalls. Well, the government's taking action today to get us better trained for the changing job market. Now, this is for people late in their careers, people who may need to be retrained on some things. Now, the government's starting a campaign to highlight the need for workers in skilled trades, technology, and manufacturing. It's also working on a national strategy for training and retraining workers. Now, the other part of this is getting companies to expand apprenticeships and increase on-the-job training. Now, security and aerospace company Lockheed Martin is one of the companies announcing that it's doing this today. Yeah, the CEO says they'll be creating 8,000 apprenticeship and workforce development opportunities over the next 5 years. All right, let's get to the Now Newsfeed. These are important stories that we tell you in a short amount of time. At least 3 people hurt in an explosion at a Pennsylvania Army depot this morning. Now, authorities, they don't think it's terrorism, but did happen at a paint shop and isn't impacting any other base activity. An Olympian figure skater dead in a knife attack in Kazakhstan. Dennis Ten, he's from there. He was just 25 years old, won bronze at the Sochi Games back in 2014. Well, the government has summoned at least 70 children under the age of 1 to court. Again, under the age of 1. Yeah, it's for their own deportation proceedings. This is according to Kaiser Health News. Doctors say this is all happening as these children, they're at a key developmental age where they need bonding with a parent. And today, President Trump saying that he wants a second meeting with Vladimir Putin. Yeah, he says it'll let them start implementing ideas that they talked about at the Helsinki summit. Now, he tweeted a list of those topics that include nuclear proliferation, cyber attacks, trade, North Korea, stopping terrorism, and security for Israel. And the president also today pushing back on criticism of that first meeting, saying that the summit was a great success, except with the, quote, fake news media. Well, remember, Democrats and Republicans have both been critical of his performance in that meeting. Well, Time Magazine certainly making its feelings known with this cover right here. Take a look. This came out today, and you can see Vladimir Putin, President Trump, they just kind of morph into the same person. Well, the artist behind it says it's meant to represent this particular moment in U.S. foreign policy. All right, let's get back to our lineup here. And next we're talking about the big city that's banning restaurants from putting sugary drinks on kids' menus. Yeah, we're checking out one restaurant that already does this, finding out how customers are reacting to it. You're watching The Now. Welcome back to The Now. I'm Chris Stewart, and this is a controversial move, taking all sugary drinks off of kids' menus. Baltimore just became the biggest U.S. city to do this. So, could this become a trend everywhere? Well, The Now's Andy Taylor's checking out another city that's made this change to see how it's working there.
We're here in Lafayette, Colorado, the 9th city to enact this bill, and we wanted to see how things were working out, so we're going to go inside Martino's Pizzeria, where families are the main customer.
So we have milk and chocolate milk and apple juice options. We also have soda, but we put this at an eye level for the kids so that they understand and see and get excited right when they walk in the door.
Lafayette was the catalyst for Baltimore to make a healthy change in their city.
There are children who are being diagnosed with heart disease, with high blood pressure.
Sean McIntosh with Sugar Free Kids of Maryland says there's a health crisis in America. 1 in 3 kids are overweight or obese. This is according to the American Heart Association. Now, cities where kids' menus exclude sugary drinks only offer milk, 100% fruit juice, and sparkling water.
But a parent has the option of choosing something else if they want to.
Although McIntosh feels sodas are the real problem, we need to point out juice is still filled with sugar.
The bill that we passed limits juice to 8 ounces, which is the recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics.
There are currently 10 cities across the country that have enacted the bill. It includes 8 cities in California, 1 in Colorado, and now Baltimore.
I have 5 kids, so it's important for me to, set those standards.
But restaurant owners like MJ Vaco say majority of parents appreciate the change. Do parents still order soda?
Yeah, I would say soda is probably the #1 consumed.
Although some parents still order their kids soda, the city of Lafayette as a whole finds the sugary-free bill sweet enough to keep. This small step, McIntosh believes, will make a lasting impression.
So if you can keep kids from drinking sugary beverages on a regular basis and teach them that it's something that's a once-in-a-while thing, then they actually develop healthy habits early on.
For The Now, I'm Andy Taylor.
All right, Annie, thank you. And in the meantime, Philadelphia's tax on sugary drinks just got upheld. The state's Supreme Court rejecting a challenge by stores and the drink industry. Now, the court says the tax is aimed at distributors, not customers. It says it doesn't illegally duplicate another tax. The drink tax raised nearly $79 million last year. That money going to schools, parks, and libraries.
Okay, we are watching a line of storms coming across the Treasure Coast, lined up all the way from Okeechobee into Sebastian. I just got a report of some possible hail around Fellsmere. Here's the line responsible. Some lightning strikes, not a lot of them though, but some torrential rains coming in across Okeechobee in the next few minutes. Here's the wider view. You can see it stretches all the way up into Sebastian, cutting across the turnpike, and then the western side of the lake around Buckhead Ridge. It is slowly pushing toward the east. Temperatures along the coastline, look at that, 95. And in Palm Beach County, it is not as active. A few little rain cells just south of Belglade, and we can certainly see rain just about anywhere through the evening. Hey, if you're out later this evening, I would say after 10, 11 o'clock, you'll be able to see the moon and Jupiter very close together, and then fainter Saturn in the sky, and then Mars rises late evening, bright red in the around the midnight sky and overnight. Here's the planner hour by hour. We are looking at least some isolated showers and storms. Some of that should work in toward the coastline through about 7, 8 o'clock tonight. More on the forecast and the heat coming up.
A sea turtle watch group in Pinellas County is trying to help hatchlings reach the water by dimming the lights. Right now, some 70% of baby sea turtles are becoming confused from the bright lights from nearby condos. Now, they cannot see the red light spectrum, so to turn things down, volunteers handed out these amber-colored bulbs.
If they're distracted by a light, they're going to head right into the dunes. And that's a heartbreaker because we know they've got 24 hours to get where they need to go in the water. It just really helps us and gets those babies right back to the water where they belong.
Now, we are in the middle of sea turtle nesting season, which runs through October 31st. Some 2 million sea turtles are hatched here on Palm Beach County beaches each year. One of Florida's largest medical marijuana treatment centers has halted production because of a food safety violation. The Miami Herald reports Surterra missed an inspection deadline and is now working to get up to code. The closest Surterra location to us is over in Miami Beach. The company says it should be up and running within a few weeks. President Donald Trump may be returning to South Florida by the end of the month. The Huffington Post reports the president is in talks about hosting a rally in Miami for Republican governor candidate Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is competing against Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam for the Republican candidacy. The Republican gubernatorial primary is set for August 28th. Here's a heads up for people in Manalapan. There is a boil water notice currently in effect. Town officials say there was an electronic malfunction at the repump station on Land's End Road, resulting in the pressure to drop. This precautionary notice will remain in effect until the water is safe to drink.
Let's get to some news stories we're following here in the Now News feed. Facebook is trying to crack down on posts that could spark violence. Facebook saying local organizations will be able to point out if a post is false and potentially dangerous, then Facebook will remove it. Well, this is just like a scene out of Pirates of the Caribbean. A Korean company says it has found a sunken treasure ship full of gold. This was a ship from Russia that sank more than a century ago in a war between Russia and Japan. Former First Lady Michelle Obama is pushing more people to vote. She launched a new voter registration initiative today called When We All Vote, celebrities like Tom Hanks joining her in that effort. And as we head into the midterm elections, there could be a lot of close races. Politicians, of course, looking for any advantage they can get, some even using fake news schemes to get elected. Now's Corey Rangel looking at what candidates are doing and what you should look out for.
We're all trying to fight fake news and figure out what's real and what's not. But when politicians jump in the game and actively engage in or promote fake news, it can be even trickier. For example, Health News NJ is a page designed to look like a health website. But if you look closely, a New Jersey senator set up the site and is using it to attack his opponent. In Arizona, a candidate for Senate promoted an endorsement from a fake news site on her Facebook page and campaign website, which generated hundreds of shares and comments.
The problem from an independent viewpoint is you're not giving people the full story, and they think they're getting it from some outside independent journalist, and that's not the case.
Angie Holan is the editor of PolitiFact, a website that fact-checks claims by politicians. She says both political parties are guilty of misleading voters.
There's no real consequences, there's no law against it, there's no campaign rules against it. It's just deceptive.
And she has a warning about what you read online.
People have to look very closely. They have to go to the About Us page. They have to look at the fine print. I think it's better for people to get their political news from a source that they're very familiar with and have a high level of trust with the source. If you're going to a news site that you've never been to before, have all your skepticism up.
For The Now, I'm Corey Rangel.
Good information there, Corey. Thank you. Next in our lineup, we're talking about a new plan for dogs to take down school shooters. Is it a good idea? Is it too dangerous for the dogs? We'll break that down next. You're watching The Now. Welcome back to The Now. I'm Chris Stewart, and everyone has ideas about how to prevent or at least protect more people during mass shootings. Some ideas more controversial than others when you think of arming teachers, but what about trained canines? A Tennessee company that helps businesses plan for catastrophic events. They just debuted this new canine program. They say these dogs, they can detect gunfire, even take down an active shooter.
We have customers that have actually had active shooter incidents at locations, and that really sort of changed our approach to start looking for mitigation tools to help on the preparedness side.
Meanwhile, in Clio, Michigan, students in one school district will come back to safety buckets. These are buckets filled with food, water, gauze, bandages. Buckets were donated by Walmart. There's going to be one in every classroom there. There's a problem with the gear shifter in thousands of Ford cars. It may cause your car to just roll away. Ford's recalling more than 500,000 cars and SUVs because of this. This is for the 2013 to 2016 Ford Fusions and 2013 to 2014 Ford Escapes. Now, using the parking brake, that's a temporary fix for the issue, but you can take your car to the dealer for a free permanent fix. So far, no one's been injured or been in an accident related to this issue. Well, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, they may have been leaving dangerous cars on the roads longer than necessary. There's a new government audit calling out the agency's poor oversight of recalls. It says those recalls may not have been happening fast enough for cars with these exploding Takata airbags. At least 23 people have died worldwide from those airbags. Now, the agency says it isn't endorsing all of the audit's findings, but it has agreed to some of the recommendations. We do have a lot more to talk about this afternoon in our lineup. A lot of blowback from this, including a college football coach now questioning if CTE is really related to football injuries. Well, CTE, of course, that brain disease, it's linked to depression and suicide. Very controversial comments. We're going to take a closer look and a look at the evidence when the Now continues. Welcome back to the Now. I'm Chris Stewart, and we start the news feed in this half hour with a possible way to find melanoma faster. Australian scientists say they have a blood test that can do it, and they're hoping they can spot skin cancer before it becomes deadly. Well, the images of the Kilauea volcano on Hawaii, they have just been stunning. And authorities, they're trying to make it a tourist activity, but the big problem is they can't find a safe location for people to come and see this lava for themselves. This week, of course, a lava bomb injuring more than 20 people on a tourist boat. Well, it may seem like a conch shell would be a really cool souvenir, but just don't try it in Key West. A woman, she's going to jail for 15 days. She collected 40 of these shells from the beach. Well, the woman also now paying hundreds of dollars in fines. She says that she didn't know that taking them was illegal. She thought she was just going to give them away as gifts. Deadly wildfires in Oregon and California continue to spread. Now, the Substation wildfire in Oregon, it's burned more than 50,000 acres already. One man died while trying to cut a fire line. Meanwhile, at the Ferguson fire in California, a firefighter died when his bulldozer rolled into a ravine.
I'm just hoping it ends soon and that, no one loses their houses, no one else is injured, and we don't lose any more of our firefighters.
Now, there are thunderstorms today in California which could help those firefighting efforts. There are also concerns that the storm's winds could cause the flames to spread.
A small Treasure Coast town is trying to get on the map, literally. For years, the mayor says the town of Ocean Breeze has been nearly impossible to find by delivery drivers or guests. The mayor turned to WPTV with hopes of getting something to change. The Now's Megan McRoberts reached out to Google to find out why this has been a problem for so many years.
Mayor Karen Austrian had no trouble finding her perfect home in the town of Ocean Breeze.
Very proud of it, very proud of its history.
But the problem is no one else can find her.
2 years of begging someone help.
That's because Google Maps is years behind, she says. Pull up Google Maps and you'll find even the name of the town is wrong. It hasn't been Ocean Breeze Park for 8 years.
When I became mayor, I wanted to make sure the name was correct.
She even says the layout of the streets is inaccurate. But why? Austrian says a couple years ago she led the charge to change about 40 street names in the town to a beachy theme to fit the feel of the colorful homes. The post office updated everyone's address, so while the mail carrier has mastered the changes, delivery drivers and guests still can't find them on GPS.
If you went to a furniture store and you asked them about Ocean Breeze, you'd probably get a roll of the eyes because of the trouble to deliver.
Austrian says she's at her limit.
I was about this close to say to my husband, I'm going to get on a plane, go out to California, knock on Google's door.
That was Megan McRoberts reporting. Now, Google did get back to us and had this to say. The various types of data found in Google Maps come from a wide range of sources. They went on to say, we recognize that there may be occasional inaccuracies that could arise from any of those sources. While we regularly update the map, the amount of time it takes to update varies.
All right, South Florida, thanks, Alana. We are looking at some sunshine along the coastline, but back around the lake, we do have showers and storms working in. Across Okeechobee, a fine line of storms, reports of some hail around the Fellsmere area, at least the chance for some hail, and the Doppler radar indicating that there is at least that threat. There's a look at the radar. So the rain is beginning to work in across Okeechobee in the northern side of the lake, and it trails all the way off into Sebastian. This will continue to push toward the coast. A lot of it won't make it to the immediate coast, but it will bring some rain along the Turnpike and 95 on the Treasure Coast. So this is an area that you have to keep an eye on, and anyone heading north up around Orlando is going to run into that in the next 2 to 3 hours too. There's a look at Palm Beach County. I mean, the heat and humidity, very, very impressive. So we'll keep the rain chances around first Treasure Coast and then some into Palm Beach County through 6, 7, even 8 o'clock tonight. And we have another very, very warm day on the way for Friday, and it looks like the weekend, some temperatures again in the 90s and the heat index above 100. So stay hydrated out there. We have more heat on the way.
Well, right now, the Mega Millions jackpot is at $442 million, and this Fort Myers man couldn't wait to get his tickets. The Lee County Sheriff's deputies are actually searching for him because he stole several $100s worth of lotto tickets. Deputies say he cut a hole in the roof to get inside. The next Mega Millions drawing is tomorrow night. Well, there wasn't a dry eye in the building when Miami Hurricane football legend Jim Kelly took the stage last night at the ESPYs. Kelly was given the Jim Valvano Perseverance Award. The Football Hall of Famer and two-time cancer survivor had this message.
I came up with a saying, make a difference today for someone who is fighting for their tomorrow. When I look across this arena, and when I talk to people, and I look at people, you don't need to be a Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers to make a difference out there. Every single person in this room can be a difference maker.
Wow. Now, Kelly was on his way to New York today for a checkup. He said something came up during his recovery from surgery for oral cancer. Certainly in our thoughts today.
Oh, I watched that last night. I was crying when I mean, it was such a moving speech, and they did a whole piece on Jim Kelly before. Amazing. Yeah, he's had quite the ordeal. And he and his wife lost a son when their son was 8 years old. So it was just all of this on top of each other. But what an amazing, absolutely. I was just going to say that. All right. Well, Alana, thank you. Coming up today at 5, in the middle of hurricane season, some homeowners are worried they aren't prepared. Big problem, shutters in short supply. We're going to find out what's causing the problem and why some local businesses are telling customers they might not be able to get them until next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
After
we need
the hurricane
them now.
season is
Yeah,
over.
Exactly.
All right, we'll have to tune in for that. 5 o'clock. Thanks, Kelly.
Pretty strong backlash today over comments made by the University of North Carolina's head football coach. He questioned the validity of studies that link football and the type of brain injury that can cause depression, memory loss, even suicide. The Now's Chris Welch looking into this controversy.
UNC football coach Larry Fedora says the game of football is, quote, under attack, saying he's not convinced there's a proven link between CTE, a degenerative brain disease, and football, adding that he worries the sport is being fundamentally altered.
I fear that the game will get pushed so far to one extreme that you won't recognize the game 10 years from now. That's what I worry about. And I do believe that if it gets to that point, that our country goes down too.
Backing up that claim, he says, is a conversation he once had with a military general who says football makes our military the best.
He was like, that's easy. We're the only football playing nation in the world. You know, and he said most of all of our troops have grown up, have played the game at some point in their life, at some level. And the lessons that they learn from that game is what makes us who we are.
He sought to clarify his comments in a later interview. My understanding is repeated blows to the head cause it, he said. So I'm assuming that every sport, football included, could be a problem with that if you've got any kind of contact. Stefan Duma runs Virginia Tech's nationally recognized independent helmet testing lab. He says when it comes to aggressive sports and brain injury, there is a connection.
I think any reasonable person would say certainly there's a link with increased frequency of head impact and the potential to develop some sort of neurodegenerative disease.
But since the science is still relatively new, it's hard to know exactly how big of a link and whether football is really a bigger offender than other high-contact sports. But to Coach Fedora's point about the game changing, Duma says it might a little.
You know, so I think it's really a broader question about the future of sport, the future of contact sports, and how do we make all of them as safe as possible.
Reporting for The Now, I'm Chris Welch.
All right, some real talk now about weight. And 45% of people actually blaming their current job for causing them to gain 10, even 20 pounds. So Andy Taylor here to break down what's going on in the office and what we can do about it. Because I do hear a lot of people, they're like, I'm sitting all day, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, think about it. Your job and your commute eat up a chunk of your day.
It does.
Yeah.
It eats it all up.
So nearly half of people surveyed by CareerBuilder said they're just too tired to exercise or they don't have time. Well, you're going to have to make time because the magic number appears to be 4, Chris. People that worked out at least 4 days a week lost the most amount of weight. And remember, that can happen on your weekends too. But there's more going on than that. If you're a stress eater, you're not alone because 72% of us just snack all day at work. Here's a little tip. I like bringing healthy snacks from home like nuts, fruit, veggies, you know the drill. Those you can actually eat throughout the day and not worry about your waistline. But get this, biggest problem workers say isn't the wrong food or exercise. They actually say it's sitting all day long. It's good to know that businesses are recognizing the problem and some are actually willing to buy those adjustable standing desks for their employees. What's kind of cool about these two, standupdesk.com says a lot of high-powered executives use them, even the White House has them. So, Chris, maybe they are pretty effective.
Interesting stuff there, Annie. Thank you. Let's get back to our lineup here, and we have a warning for you today. Thieves, they have figured out another way to steal our credit card information online. It's called digital skimming, and we're going to fill you in on that when the Now continues. Welcome back, I'm Chris Stewart, and we're all used to buying stuff online. It's an easy way to get the stuff we want, but today we have to warn you about the newest way that thieves are stealing our credit card information while we shop. It's catching retailers off guard as well, and the Now's investigative reporter Jace Larson taking a look at digital skimmers.
We have all seen the news stories. The devices that are put on a gas station credit card reader and then try to skim our credit card information.
MageCart is nothing more than the same thing, but on a website.
Wait, who is MageCart? Well, let me tell you, they're an online group of mainly Russian hackers. They write special code that they then insert secretly on websites, and then they can digitally skim off your data when you make a purchase.
So you put your items in your basket, hit checkout, go to your payment details, you enter your information, and then it's stolen.
Jonathan Kleinsma is the lead threat analyst for Risk IQ. He's been following MageCart since they first started hacking, when they were hacking the little guys.
They've also found ways to actually go after the big guys. So, I mean, Ticketmaster is a pretty big one to go after.
That's right, even Ticketmaster has fallen prey. They're the biggest company announced in the hack so far, and there are over 800 e-commerce sites around the world that have been affected by this latest skimming code. So what does all of this mean for you?
So as a consumer, there's not a whole lot you can do. That's the problem.
Kleinsma does say we should expect better security from the companies that we work with.
Consumers should expect these big websites, or at least any web store, to protect their private information.
I'm Jace Larson, The Now.
All right, Jace, thank you. Let's get to the Now News with a look at some of the stories that are getting attention today. And this driver now facing charges in the deaths of a mother and daughter in Minnesota, an 800-pound boulder falling off the back of his truck and hitting them. Police say it's unclear if the man knew that the rock fell from his landscaping truck. We do talk a lot about the student debt crisis, but some med students at the University of Houston, they won't be worrying about that. An anonymous donor giving $3 million to the school. Now, the new med school, it opens in 2020, and 30 students will have their tuition covered. Very powerful story here as well, as a Little League team in Kentucky rallying around a boy fighting cancer. Now, this 11-year-old boy, he had surgery to remove a brain tumor. He wasn't able to try out for the team because of his medical condition, but the team asked him to join anyway, and he has become certainly a source of inspiration for them. How about this story? A pair of twins taking their competitiveness to a whole nother level. Now, you can barely tell them apart. Sisters Jessica Ann Tyson and Monica Sparks, both of them running for county commissioners in Kent County, Michigan, and get this, they're running in opposing parties. Now, we asked them how they ended up with different viewpoints despite the same upbringing.
Things that Monica, from her view, her lens, believes those things are, which I believe those are the same for my party, but I feel...
We see them through a different lens.
And they tell us they are close sisters, but in this case, they're not exactly cheering each other on.
We're not endorsing each other or cheering each other on, but we're not upset with each other. We're not, going to throw in the towel in our relationship. We love each other. Yeah, we love each other, and we understand that if you want to move forward, our parents have always taught us, be diplomatic. Try to find some common ground that you can work from there.
Hey, good that there's all love there. They do tell us their parents are both very supportive of them. And the good thing here is they're not running against each other. They're actually running for seats in different districts.
Here we go. Still watching that line of storms and rain coming across the Okeechobee area. There's a look at the rain arriving across Okeechobee. Not much for lightning strikes. It's just really torrential downpours stretching all the way from Sebastian and starting to work into Vero now around the Outlet Mall and 60. And some of that making it in around Johns Island and Orchid Island and all the way back through Okeechobee. So that's that line of rain and storms that continues to push in toward the coastline in the next couple of hours. And in Palm Beach County, we've seen these pop-up little rain cells west. There's one there just south of Belglade now, and a few more are expected to develop close to the coast. There's a little sea breeze, you can see it right there forming and moving west. So we'll watch for additional rain pop up around Wellington and Royal Palm and Loxahatchee in the next couple of hours. So we are looking at least some rain, and some of that could make it to the coast early mid-evening, so umbrella needed and a rumble of thunder possible. It will not be as wild as it was last night. We had some big storms last night, but there is obviously some rain on the way.
Luckily, clear skies this morning for another sea turtle release. This loggerhead sea turtle is back home. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center in Juno Beach let out TFD and allowed him to crawl back into the ocean after months of rehabilitation. Lots of people cheering him on. They also attached a tracker to its shell. TFD is an adult loggerhead that was found in the St. Lucie Power Plant intake canal. Tests showed he had signs of anemia and was starved. The marine biologists were able to get him healthy again, which meant he was able to head home today. A second chance at life. A dog that nearly met his end in a war zone in Iraq is saved thanks to people from all over the world and a local rescue. In Palm Beach Gardens today, Socks was given a hero's welcome to recognize the life-saving efforts of organizations who save these types of dogs. Socks is about to start a new life in Palm Beach County.
He's learning how to walk on a leash. He never knew what grass was.
Believe it or not, his journey started as a tortured stray in war-torn Iraq.
In spite of the horrors of what he went through, being shot, being wounded, he's got scars all over his face. They threw rocks at him. But an animal, when you rescue an animal, knows that they're in good hands.
He was found by government contractor Adam Schenk, who connected with local animal advocate Deborah Cohn.
I believe in divine intervention.
She quickly phoned Jupiter-based Furry Friends for help.
Baghdad? I said, Deborah, I have trouble getting strays transported from Miami.
After months of planning and teaming up with international organizations that rescue animals from war zones, they finally made it happen.
Luckily, he made it out when he did.
Socks just stepped foot into U.S. soil 3 weeks ago, and today, a hero's welcome. In turn, Socks is now giving back to veterans, serving as an ambassador dog for Furry Friends to connect disabled vets with service dogs. Socks is still recovering from his gunshot wound, but Furry Friends has promised to pay for his medical care for life.
A worn-torn stray living the lazy way. Just loves food, loves the dogs, loves everybody, kind, good-hearted, and loves to play, so it really does my heart good.
I'm gonna be honest here, I'm not really one to know the latest with what's going on with the Kardashians or to tweet or share a pic of Kylie Jenner, but some people, they are not happy about what they saw in one of her videos. A lot of people noticing that her 5-month-old baby girl, Stormy, had pierced ears. So, of course, a lot of debate started online on Twitter about when it's too early to pierce a child's ears. Some people saying, I personally think Kylie Jenner should wait a little bit until she is at least 1 or 2, but a lot of other people saying this is perfectly normal. Another person tweeting, I legit got mine pierced at the hospital when I was born. Yeah, so is there a safe age when kids should get their ears pierced? Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics says really any age is fine. It does need to be done safely with sanitary procedures and precautions. They say kids should get round studs with a gold post. The gold post will reduce the risk of allergic reaction and inflammation. Well, tough to look at here. An extreme case of what can happen when you get bit by a spider. This mother of 3 she ended up having to have her leg amputated. It was after a brown recluse spider bit her foot. Now, she is diabetic, and that also played a part.
I don't want to be on pain meds for the rest of my life. I'm now on dialysis because of a spider bite.
Now, the woman did go to the ER when she first noticed this bite. They sent her to her primary care doctor, and they gave her medicine for the bite, but then her foot, it just got worse, and that's when she went back to the hospital, and they said they had to amputate. All right, well, after the Parkland school shooting, many students, they started becoming activists. We've seen them out there pushing for gun control, trying to get more people to vote. Now, many of these students are too young to vote themselves. Now, some cities, they are pushing to change that. We're going to be looking into both sides of the debate tomorrow here on The Now. But finally in our lineup, we're going to be hitting the streets to talk about milk. Most specifically, does milk have to come from a cow? Kind of a silly question, but the government actually debating that right now. And it's raising the question of what else would you call stuff like soy milk or almond milk? We'll get into that when The Now continues. I want to keep you updated here on these stories in the Now news feed, and this is one of those weekends you may just want to go buy a lottery ticket. Mega Millions and Powerball, they're at a combined $552 million. Mega Millions, their next drawings tomorrow, Powerball's on Saturday. Starbucks opening a store that's aimed at helping people who are hard of hearing. It's called a Starbucks signing store. It's in Washington, D.C. All employees will be fluent in sign language. Starbucks' first store like this opened in Malaysia in 2016. Well, the Brady Bunch's famous home, it may not be around for much longer. This LA home, it's on the market for around $1.8 million. Deadline reporting that the real estate agent selling it says several prospective buyers may be looking to tear it down. Well, if it feels like every time you go to the grocery store, you just spend more and more, you may be buying items that just keep going up in price. USA Today breaking down foods that have increased the most in the last 10 years. Butter and margarine topping the list there, nearly 55%. Ground beef, more than 52%. Steaks, bacon, seafood prices, those have also surged 41%. Even salt, some of your favorite seasonings, those continue to go up in prices. Well, this seems like an obvious answer. Where does milk come from?
Cows.
A cow.
The cows, obviously.
A cow.
Yeah, obvious, right? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, milk can come from an animal or be a food product from seeds or fruit. The FDA, though, saying not so fast. Now, it's set to put in a rule that blocks stuff like soy milk from being called milk. The rule would say that milk can only come from cows. So it left us wondering, if you can't call almond milk, what would you call it? Well, we hit the streets to find out, and here's what people had to say.
I couldn't call it milk. Wow, that's a tough question.
Sauce?
That's tough. I never thought about that.
Is it maybe like nut milk?
Nut nutrient? I don't know.
Almond juice. Juice or like almond water.
Watery pulp.
Almond juice.
But I mean, just like trying to call it something else other than almond milk is already kind of ridiculous.
No, I don't see why you gotta get rid of milk. Milk is not necessarily from cows.
That's right.
It's, anything can be milky and not have any milk in it. I don't see a problem with almond milk.
Yeah, I can't wait to start my morning with coffee and some nice almond sauce. The head of the FDA says this process, it is going to take some time, and apparently milk, not the only thing the FDA is debating. There's also disagreements about what to call lab-grown meat and yogurt that doesn't contain dairy. All right, that'll do it for us today here on The Now. I'm Chris Stewart. The news at 5 is next.
Now from WPTV, this is News Channel 5 at 5.
A local masseuse facing sexual battery charges.
They were all people that didn't know each other.